Let's move on to the Kentucky Wildcats. Also, another team that is bringing in a new coach. They bring in Will Stein, the offensive coordinator from Oregon the last few years, working out there with Dan Lanning. He's a Kentucky native. Made some headlines this week at SEC Media Days here in Tampa, really kind of pumping his own tires, pumping the program's tires, and talking a big game about what Kentucky could potentially do, not necessarily this year, but in the next few years, talking like they could be the next Indiana, the next basketball school to kind of really make some noise at the national level in football. The jury's out for me on Will Stein. I think he's a good X's and O's coach. Is this personality that we're starting to see from him? Is he just trying to basically replicate and copycat what Curt Cignetti did at Indiana? Or is this authentic and this is who he's truly going to be? He's going to be a quote machine, but he's going to back it up on the field. Time will tell. Max, I'll come to you first for the Wildcats. What do you know about what's going on in Lexington, and what do you think Kentucky does this year?
Yeah, Kentucky Wildcats. I actually am a huge fan of Will Stein. The guy developed Dante Moore, Bo Nix at Oregon. He was an apostle of Dan Lanning, who I appreciate as well. I think just his style and his demeanor, just kind of that hard ass, like we're gonna work our tails off. No excuses. It's a little Vrabel-esque to some extent, but also a player's coach at the same time. I think Will Stein kind of brings that to his cousin fucking state of Kentucky, and it's going to be interesting to see. Their schedule is a gauntlet: Alabama, Texas A&M, LSU, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Florida, Missouri, and then out of conferences Louisville, who we talked about as arguably top 3 team in the ACC. So it's tough to say that he's going to be successful year one. However, I look at this team long term. I think there could be some Mark Stoops like success here. It's never going to be super flashy 10-win season. We're going to be a threat in the SEC, but there are certainly going to be some 8 wins, some 9 wins that maybe come from Will Stein, I think. And once he gets his recruits in, now, granted, they've got one of the top offensive lines in the country. I think CBS Sports ranked them the 3rd best offensive line in the country, which was an absolute weakness last year, flipped to a strength. I think ultimately the guy can develop quarterbacks. And we look at Jaden Daniels even a couple years back when he was with him. So I think overall, this program is on an upward trajectory for a middle of the pack SEC program. I don't know that they're going to be contenders just based on the history and the money and, some of these massive programs that you have down in the Southeast Conference. But I do think that he will turn the Kentucky program around and get it to be respectable. I just don't think that's this year with the schedule that they have. So, all in all, I like Will Stein. I think over 4.5 wins, I wanted to take it up front, just knowing what his background is as a quarterback whisperer and the offensive line that they have and just some of the pieces there. But the reality is I look at that schedule and I think Florida's better. I think Tennessee's better. Louisville is no cakewalk. So when you look at a gauntlet of 9 games out of your schedule, I think 4.5 under actually looks a whole lot better for this program. But don't let it fool you. Kentucky will rise again.
Yeah, Ryan, the way I want to present it to you is I would imagine, and I'd have to go back and look, I don't have it in front of me, but I'd imagine the year that Cignetti took over, the first year of the 12-team playoff, they were probably something along the lines of about 25 to 30 to 1 to get to the playoff preseason. That's what Kentucky is. They're 30 to 1 to get to the playoff this year. Is there any value in taking a flyer and kind of just sprinkling the chance that Will Stein finds that year one magic like Cignetti did a few years ago?
So despite everything I said earlier, the difference between that year and this year is Cignetti's season that year, I believe, started week 10 when they played Ohio State. Up until that point, they had no hard games. Kentucky opens 2 of its first 3 games with Alabama and Texas A&M this year. I do not think that there is a chance they have any time to build momentum and do anything close to what Curt Cignetti and Indiana did that first year. Their schedule is, I think it's the ranked 11th hardest in the country. I don't have a whole lot to add besides what Max said. I went in, I did my research. I said 4.5 wins. This is an easy over. I like Stein. I agree with a lot of what Max says. I think he's going to get Kentucky right back on the right track. But then I looked at their schedule, and it's Youngstown State and South Alabama. Besides that, there's no games on that schedule where I'm like, that's an easy win.
They're definitely going to win, yeah.
So I went in saying, I'm taking the over 4.5. And then I looked at their schedule, and I think I'm firmly on the under 4.5 now.
I meant to throw this piece in too. So Will Stein gets Kenny Minchey to transfer from Notre Dame. Let's not forget, Kenny Minchey almost beat out CJ Carr for the top quarterback spot at Notre Dame. And now CJ Carr is labeled as Heisman favorite, their national championship favorites, all this shit. Now we know Notre Dame's schedule kind of blows, and we can talk about that later. But that's a big get for a quarterback guru, a quarterback whisperer like Will Stein. So I really like to see that. But also the quote that Will Stein had at SEC Media Days was kind of like the Cignetti quote last year of Google me. It's kind of the new one this year, which I feel like is kind of funny. So I'm going to read it. It says, "This is going to sound really arrogant. I think because of me, to be honest, I think because of me, I know what it takes. You just got to put the football down and play." Is basically his response to how he thinks the team's going to do this year under him, which is hilarious because it's absolutely arrogant. But I kind of like it. It's a little bit of flair. It's a little bit of swag. You're bringing that demeanor to Kentucky of all places, and you bring in Kenny Minchey, who is supposed to be this top quarterback, and kind of got rebuked from Notre Dame essentially for CJ Carr. So it further makes me think that UK, Kentucky Wildcats, they will rise again, but it's just not going to be this season.
Fair enough.